Greetings, warm greetings. I'm going to start with speaker view. Oh, all right. Here we are. So I'm MiraMichelle, and I'm the founder and director of the Sacred Female Rising Institute. And today we're going on a bit of an exploration. We're going to co-create an experience together. And I'm very much looking forward to this for quite some time, actually. That is a little bit of a longer story, so perhaps we won't move into that, but maybe you'll get a sense of it through our exploration. So we're going to start with, in just a few moments, again, to share with you a little bit about myself and how am I sitting here. And then we're going to move into the material. And usually this PowerPoint presentation, we won't get the whole PowerPoint presentation, we'll get snippets of it. Usually it's about an hour and a half or 2 hour venture, and it's going to be all molded into 1 hour. So we'll have fun with that. And during this, what I like to call a weaving of consciousness, we'll break, we will have what I reference as feeling pauses, slowing down to allow the information to move into the body, that we can check it, fact checker. Sometimes I love to say this, it's like the ultimate fact checker before you go to Snoops or one of these other online fact checkers. Our main fact checker is here in our stomachs and then in our hearts. And then we move up to our head and we begin to work with that amazing instrument. So that's why I like to have feeling pauses, so we can do that together. And also during this week, we will have like a short meditation, and then at the end again, a short meditation. Okay, so what is all this about? I'm going to show you. Sacred Feminine History Rewritten. It says it right here, so that's what we're going to do. I also like to have some fun and some humor as we're working. So let us please start with a minute of silence. And I would like to focus this minute of silence, my dear ones, to all of our humanity on this planet and to our earth, with a special focus on our fellow humans that are having very intense experiences because of our present situation. So I thank you for joining me with that focus. Thank you. Thank you. We could have continued, right? Could have gone on with that. So I would love to move us now to gallery view. Hello, sister and brother. We have a lovely small circle today. And it's so fitting that we have a man and a woman in our room today. You're going to find out why. Okay. So this exploration, this experience, the train is short before leaving the station. Say before that, I would say a little bit about myself and why and how I'm here. I feel that that is an important aspect of the information that is shortly to come. Okay. So as you just found out, my name is MiraMichelle. And I'm debating where to begin because I've given myself 2.5 minutes. So you might detect that my accent weaves in between English and American, and that is because my mother is English-Irish. I was born in England on the coast of England, and my father is African-American and part Native American. He was in the U.S. Air Force, and he met my mummy, in London a few decades ago. So I've spent my life sort of going back and forth between England and California. And one of the things I found out about that experience is that there's a great common denominator that we all share, and that is change. So of course, with all this movement, being a child of a US Air Force human, I learned about change very early, that things change very quickly. Before you know it, you have a new school, new friends, and then another new school, new friends, and new countryside, and humans that perceive differently than other humans certain aspects of life. So that opened my mind quite an extent at a young age. And already at 9 years old, I had what many may call my first paranormal experience. And I began to be able to digest, so to say, that experience at the age of 19 when I joined my first meditation group. I met a phenomenal healer by accident or coincidence. I call my earth angel because indeed she did save my life in some ways. And I worked and I studied with her meditation as if we study meditation. However, in some aspects we do because of our instrument. While I was attending university, and at some point when I finished my degree in communications and psychology, and then I finished my degree from her, which was a one-on-one internship in a way in energy medicine, reading chakras, auras, which came very naturally for me, which I do believe comes naturally for all humans. It's part of our hardware. Oftentimes we don't make it part of our software. What is there? And with the skills I learned in that training, I consider them to be quite normal until when I was utilizing them, let's say in sessions or in groups, I saw that they weren't normal. So to say normal every day, like, oh, your third chakra is telling me your boss's name is Mark and you have this issue with him and da-da-da-da-da. And people go, how do you know this? So when I was asked to join the center there at the age of about 22, I declined the offer because I felt to myself, well, I'm too young to know this much information about other human beings. And I certainly feel too young to have any sense of responsibility for that. I have my own healing to do. So there started my great journey of self-healing, introspection, inner child work, and all the other bits that come along with the sensitivity of a human being. And during this time, I studied voraciously, meditated for 5 years straight every single day. I studied all the religions, spiritual traditions. Curiosity is quite a wonderful human attribute, I feel. I feel that we humans could even be more curious than we are. So when children are very curious, just say, I know, darling, I've heard it 500 times, but keep being curious. Support curiosity. Yes. And at some point along the way, all of this content, all of this human experience came into one crystallized moment and something opened. I can't exactly say what that was. I could attempt to, but I shall not. I shall refrain because I think it's something different for every single human being. But it was like an aha moment. I think perhaps on our journey, we have several aha moments until we come to one that changes our life. That lives so deeply in the body that there's no going back to the human you were only moments before. So that brings me to now. A mixture of studying books, people, this earth, my earth, ourselves, all rolled into one. And this is part of the reason why I founded the Sacred Female Rising Institute. And you will perhaps perceive the rest as we go into the content, okay? Now, sometimes I'm going to check my notes because, like I said, there's a ton of information and I can only bring parts of it. So I don't want to be too ad lib or we'll be here for an hour and a half or 2 hours. Okay. I would like to show you part of the resources. This is a small part, but I brought some of my favorites along to sit next to us. And I will say, if you have not yet read the book, The Holographic Universe, please jump into that. I'm a big lover of science and the quantum. Okay, but mainly we're going to stay with the focus on Gerhard Bott's book that came out in 2009. And I met Mr. Bott in Spain a number of years ago. He has now passed on a year and a half ago, became my mentor. And he wrote a book called The Invention of the Gods. Now, even though my very intellectual, very brilliant mentor was a spiritual, what I call a spiritual atheist, and I am not an atheist, we had wonderful, long, in-depth conversations. And so now I'm going to share with you the 3 out of 5 newest findings of the Paleolithic era, which I feel are vastly important to understand what we're doing now and to help create the future that we are moving into. Okay, so I'm going to screen share and show you the first part. All right. Just one moment. Okay. Here we are. Okay, here we are. So I wanted to show you some of the science that Mr. Gerhard Bott used to write this phenomenal book. And I'll just read off a few. He said that an interdisciplinary approach of science was crucial in his findings. So let's have a quick look here. Sociobiology and sociology, zoology and evolutionary biology, social science, archaeology and paleoanthropology, prehistory, Paleolithic II culture, paleomedicine, paleodemography, Neolithic prehistory and the earliest dynastic history, ethnology, and what he says is the so-called ethnological anthropology. Okay. So that gives you an idea. And let's go on to just have a quick look at the cover of his book. So if some of you would like to champion that, hold on. Wait a minute. All right, here we go. There's the cover. And actually his wife is an artist. She's still with us, Stephanie Bott. And this is one of her pieces. And then, very lovely, would love to show you a picture of myself and Mr. Bott. This was taken in Hamburg, Germany, about, I would say about 3 or 4 years ago. There we are in Eppendorf. After one of our long discourses where I was having an amazing time learning and learning and learning. Okay. One thing I would love for us to feel into and focus on as we progress is the intelligence of nature. The great intelligence of nature. It is indeed awe-inspiring, isn't it? Okay. So one of the first new findings of the Paleolithic through this interdisciplinary approach is that there were no hunter-gatherer tribes. And then we go, what? I love to say it like that. It's kind of it's a trick thing. Actually, there were gatherer-hunter clans. And the reason it is said like that now is because it's come to the understanding that women collected 70% of the food source. 70%. And the hunt derived 25 to 30% of the food source, which again, if you fill in with your number one fact checker, the stomach, you can understand how that would make sense. Okay. So with this 70% of the food source that women gathered, and also from the hunt, the 25 to the most 30%, this was food sharing. The food was bought for all the people in the clan. We'll get back to that. Okay, the second newest fact of the Paleolithic, let's say on the way to being a fact, because there's still some points of contention out there for science, is that in paleomedicine has found out that women could only give birth once every 4 years. Women could only give birth once every 4 years. Now, why would nature do that? Why does that make sense? They say that there was a phylogenetic gene that we inherited from our ape ancestors, that women would not ovulate during lactation. Now, I've spoken with many midwives, and they still have some women in their practices who do not ovulate for 1 or 2 years as they're lactating. But most women nowadays do begin, even when they're lactating, to have their menstruation. Okay. But at this time, once every 4 years was the norm. And what would that do? Of course, that would secure the survival of the Paleolithic child, right? The food they ate was very lean, right? And very clean and lean, we like to say in this century. So of course, longer lactation would have been its nature, essentially, its nature. We have enough studies to understand how that helps and benefits the child. Okay. Now I have to decide which way to go. Okay. Okay, we'll go here. Another fact, and the third one I'll mention today, is that this 70%, I'm just jumping back to the 70% for one moment, the women did together in a united intention and agreement. They went out in groups of women of all ages to gather. Okay, that's very important to come to realize, because that is where the original female solidarity was created. And we live this way for at least 100,000 years, if not much longer. All right. And now we come to another deep understanding for women, which will lead us to the second part of this presentation. And that is that women were the first to make ceremony. Women were the first medicine people. And the ceremony was the thanksgiving to the Great Mother. The Great Mother, which is seen then and still now as a life-giving force. The life-giving force of our world, of nature, of giving life, of being a life giver, a female. So this is part of the vibration we'd love to bring into the here and now is this realization of this life-giving force. Women made the ceremonies to the life-giving force, which was the Great Mother. I'm going to show you a photo of her in just a moment, what we perceive as a photo of her. And the men had their own ceremonies and their own male collective. And the men did the ceremonies for the apology, the male hunters, to the apology to the Great Mother for the letting of blood. That ceremony is still on our planet today with some indigenous groups of saying, thank you and excuse me for the letting of blood out of respect for the life-giving force. Not out of respect for, let us say, a deity with a certain personality. It is really the force of all life that we're speaking about, having respect for the force of all life and for nature. Okay, so what I would love to do now is just give you a quick peek at what was discovered in Southwest Germany in 2009, the same year that Geer's book came out. And it is one of these incredible Venuses. And I am just realizing right now that I did not put it immediately onto my desktop. So I'm going to use a similar photo. I didn't put that one on. Okay, so we all know her, basically, if you're interested in anthropology and archaeology, etc. And this is what they call the Venus of Villandoff, found in what is now modern-day Austria. This is what scientists term as the fertility cult. And we have found these, what science calls anthropomorphic, human-like figurines all over our planet. So if I could bring her up here, I will also share that part of that 70% of the food source and the collective gathering gave women this: the primordial, which is the original, freedom, independence, autonomy, responsibility of women sexually as well as economically was given by nature. Let's let that sink in for a moment. Okay. Was given by nature itself. So we have realized that women were independent in their female solidarity, and they had choice of sexuality, and they had economic freedom within their female collectives. Now, it must come up in your mind if you're a curious person like me. Who were these people? Well, they were all over the planet. Nature's laws don't change from one land to the other. They're nature's laws. It's a tree, it's grasslands, it's wetlands, all over the planet. And so basically what has now been realized, and in the last 15 or 20 years, I would say, and it shall keep being realized. And this, I will preface this, is that we're going with science here. We're looking through paleomedicine, paleoanthropology, anthropology. You're not looking at all the other interesting finds that have been discovered on our planet. We're not weaving those in right now. We're just going in this direction. Okay. basically what they have found out is that the clans of our past ancestors started out like with about 120 individuals, and 30 were children, okay? And they were called clans because they had the same language, and they were consanguineal, which is a Latin term for blood-related clans, okay? Now, here's a couple of facts about this. Of course, we know now there was food sharing. Of course, we know now they are gatherer, hunter clans. Here's an interesting fact for you. The young men were the ones that left the clan when puberty or adolescence came, not the young women, as what later became the custom for our humanity. And there's a few different reasons for that. So what my mentor would say is, when the hormones started to pop like popcorn, since sexuality was a natural process of life. There was no intellectual projection about that. And it was held in reverence, but it was not as what happened 1,000 or 2,000 years later. If we're right on the line between the Paleolithic going into the Neolithic. So the young men were the ones that left. The young women not, because the mothers, of course, would want to be with their daughters for childbirth, because it was very perilous, right? And also, they would rather depend upon their daughters' yield from the gathering than their sons' yield from the hunting. So where would the sons go? I was especially interested in this since I have 2 sons. Where would they go? Don't send them out. Well, actually, they would go to a neighboring clan that shared the same language, which more than likely the mother's brother went to. And so the sons would go to the mother's brother, who has a special term. The mother's brother has always had a special term. In Latin, it's called the avunculus, the uncle. And he would be taken in to his uncle's hunter collective and basically shown the ropes, right? Be initiated into that collective, which was quite brilliant from nature, actually, because what we found out, there were certain areas that didn't know war for thousands of years, because the young man with his spear or with his training would know that his mothers and sisters and aunties and grandmother lived there. Why would they attack? So what we're talking about are groups of humans that sprouted up in their own collectives, which were not hierarchies. That came a bit later. These were egalitarian communities, right? Which participated in food sharing. There were no chieftains. There were basically not so much war. Maybe there were some fighting or some battles, but not like we had later on, is when we began to fight for territory. That happened later. So if you can imagine, that was basically our Garden of Eden. That's how we first began to create culture, through the honoring of the life-giving force. And it was not like the women were more important than men, or the men were more important than the women. This was based on human beings' experiences. You took natural leadership in your experience of what you excelled at, or your potential to be of assistance to your group. Okay, so those were the 3 points of the Paleolithic that I have to share today. And in maybe a later video, I will share the other 2 points, which today in our time on this planet would be somewhat controversial, and that's why I have not decided to share it here today. But if you hear this now and say, I have to find it out, then go and get Gerhard's book. You can go onto his website, and it's gerhardbot.de. Go for that. Okay, so there's one other image I would love to share with you. Okay. Now, I did say that women were the first to make ceremony and the first medicine people, which would make complete sense if they are, again, fact check with the stomach, with the heart, with the head, if they were handling plants and food as medicine, and food is medicine, and salve is medicine for thousands and thousands of years. That was their focus. Okay, so this is a female shaman, or what we may call a medicine person. Every village basically had one. And this one was found in Germany, in the east, in a place called Bad Dürrenberg. And all of her grave equipment was intact. And it's about, as you can read, 9,000 to 8,500 years old. Now, especially focus on her regalia. Her grave equipment was equivalent to what later would be known as a chieftain. This was much earlier, but later on, chieftains had this level of grave equipment. So this tells us that she was a very important person in her community. Now I'd like to show you another picture, which will be our last today. Okay. This is a Native American woman, turn of last century, painted by a dear friend of mine, Lainey Bluebird. Hello, Lainey. Now notice the similarities in the regalia. What do you perceive as? If you look at also the Mongolian people, you will find things similar. Again, we connect back to nature, what nature has given us. We connect back to what was the necessity of the people. How do these females honor or work with their people or their community? What was the need, and what did they derive from that? I love that these sort of questions are swirling within us, so we can open our minds and hearts to find out more. Right? Part of me would love to go on through the ages, through the Neolithic, and up till what we called the persecution of women as witches, and then bring it right through the Industrial Revolution until now. But perhaps I will do that second half in another 1 hour session. I would most certainly love to. Okay. I would just say this. I think this is important. It just popped into me. The fact that the boys were sent to the avunculus, their uncles, is also incest avoidance. It was a natural impulse from the people to be a part of a nature system that would avoid incest. Okay, and there were 1 or 2 more of those, which I won't go into right now, like I said before, but just feel into that. Nature's intelligence. I also would love to say that this was not a matriarch. Okay, it is not called a matriarch because the women never ruled over the men. This is called a matrifocal or matrilinear society. You can look that up also. That's important for us to realize. It's pre-hierarchical, human, social societies. As you can see, I gave a pause there because this time that I'm bringing and weaving this information into the here and now, and then I feel the need of our society. I feel what we're going through right now in this big shift of consciousness and what the humans are longing for. And I do not see that hierarchy in the way that it has been used in the last few hundred years, if not a couple of thousand, is really what most humans want. Maybe we feel comfortable because we're used to it. And moving out of hierarchy means we need to take more responsibility. And sometimes we humans shy away from responsibility. And there are many reasons for that. And I can go into a whole psychological review of that, but I'll stay shy of it, and I'll just plant that as a seed also, an introspection seed. Okay. So our ancestors thrived on a vibration called the life-giving force, a life-giving force. And from this time was born the what we call the Great Mother, the realization. And for thousands of years, she existed with many names. One of the last ones, of course, is the Mother Mary. But before this, there were many, many other names. And the Sacred Female Rising Institute is about giving that space, giving that vibration of the life-giving force, honoring nature, each other, in a life-giving way. Nature knows what that is. The intelligence of nature knows what that is. An interesting thought came in, and that was about war, how many people say, well, we've always been warlike, you know, as an excuse to more brutality. But that is simply not tenable. And so please go deeper and dig deeper and see for yourselves that may or may not be so. It depends how far you want to go back. 10,000 years was not so long ago on our planet. Not from our planetary perspective. It's like for Mother Earth, it's like 10,000 years, you know. That was just 2 nights ago. And if you can imagine that we have an inner system through our ancestor lines that we're co-creating with nature for at least 100 to 150,000 years before the last 10,000 years, that should tell us something. Now, some people then ask me, well, then Mira, what is our learning curve? What are we learning from getting so out of balance with this life-giving force? And that is an excellent question. I often ask myself that question. And what I have come up with, and in a moment, if Julian and Magdalena would love to jump into some questions with me or some banter, they're welcome. Just a moment. This is a wonderful tool. This is an incredible tool, the mind, isn't it? And I feel that was part of this learning curve, is developing that tool, developing to build these wonderful structures, you know, developing composition, developing, these textures of life in so many different aspects of who we are, you know, to see how incredible and awe-inspiring we can be, right? But now we begin to build ourselves into oblivion if we're not careful. So there's a corner that we want to turn. And I truly do hope that with what I have shared today, it will open something in our minds and hearts to give us another frame of reference. That we started there, we're coming along this line, and you know, obviously evolution does not work in a straight line. You know, it's a sort of jagged line, it's doing all sorts of things. It would be much less complicated, wouldn't it? If it just went straight. However, it doesn't, and I think that's good. And now we are creating our future. And we're all responsible for how we think and feel about what we have the potential to create. Because we are creators in such an awe-inspiring way. I feel like human beings are are absolutely magnificent miracles of life. So if you find yourself saying, oh, human beings, so just please turn it around and put it up. Please do. Because the more we realize how incredible we are, the more we can create something where all benefit from that creational aspect of life. So with that, we have 15 minutes left now. And for 2 minutes, I would love to, again, be in the vibration of deep gratitude for the here and now, this caravan of unity and unity consciousness, as we see our ancestors were born out of unity consciousness and vibration. I want to give thanks for the planet, our Earth, Mother Earth itself, herself, for supplying us with all we need, for the magic of her great intelligence. And whether you see it as a deity, a vibration in the field of consciousness, please let us not get caught on form. The form is taking us to the vibration, the essence of the expansion, the essence of the magnitude of all life and of the source. And I want to thank all of humanity, every single human being is of worth. Every single human being matters, and there's not one human being that is more important than another, and we need to stop that right away because it's nonsense. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much influence you have. I care what's in your heart and what you have to share and how you can be of service to the rising of our humanity. Now that is a person of value. Blessings. Ahe, Ashe. So we have 12 wonderful moments, minutes together now. We can speak to one another, and I felt this beautiful, and it did feel very beautiful, vibration of the sacred masculine come across my field while I was in silence. And it was like the sacred masculine was saying, can you say this about us, please? I said, of course, my darlings, of course I can. And I want to say that the masculine force of the heart is also one of the most amazing and beautiful vibrations. And it is a vibration that is rising on our planet, especially the last 10 years. It was a whole nother vibrational reservoir, I would say. And I feel that we humans long to meet that vibration with our brothers and in each other, whatever gender we may be walking with. So just wanted to give that a Okay, my two darlings, you're now representing the sacred feminine and masculine on this call. Thank you so much for standing up for humanity. And what two wonderful examples of that here now. Oh, wow. I had such a funny joke come in my mind, but I better not say it. Okay, so I feel like the great mother, the great brown mother, the earth mother. Okay, so how do you feel? How do you both feel about what you heard here? Do you have something to add to it? Do you have a question, a comment, a concern?
Hey, Mira.
Hello.
Yeah, I have no concerns, no questions now, just for saying that you are a beautiful teacher and a wonderful sister. And thank you for your...
Thank you so much, Magdalena. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to express gratitude, first of all, Mira, to you and for this insight in your so fascinating and important work that I'm just slowly getting to know, which is such an honor and feeling very blessed to get these insights from my masculine side is always, I guess I have this strong sometimes need to hold and integrate science and knowledge and the empirical. And after trying to let go of that for quite a while, I find my peace and integrate different parts of knowledge and experience. Now I'm really all about integration. And it's so fascinating how you really hold the rising of the feminine, the female, and you and your community are expressing that in so many different forms and fields. And at the same time, including intellectual history, archaeology, history of all kinds. This makes this journey so exciting for me. And I think it's not really a question. I would just maybe ask for you to say a few more words about how you avoid what is sometimes called a pre-trans confusion. What I mean is we don't want to go back to being gatherers and hunters in a way, or at least not in the old way. And the spiritual This change world has sometimes a bit of the tendency to glorify the old and to condemn the present. But I'm I'm just aware that we won't go back there, but we need, I think, some good discernment to take what we've lost on the way and reintegrate it. So it's more of, let's say, integrate and transform. And so maybe my question is your compass or your orientation to handle this very, very complex process of include and transform.
Thank you. Love that question. Yes, obviously we don't really want to go back. That would be most uncomfortable for many of us. For real, you know. But we do want to bring the wisdom of that time forward. And the first place it starts, I feel, is in the resonance, is to recognize the resonance of how we were and felt intrinsic to this earth, how we belong to this earth, right? We also belong to the stars. So that's why I support deep connection with nature. Take yourself out in nature, go and spend the night in the forest with a sleeping bag and go sleeping there, you know, without very much, you know. And then things will begin to change internally. You know, that's, I think, one of the mistakes we have made. We keep wanting to change things externally to try to meet something internally, but that internal trigger is not open yet, right? So that internal part is still closed to a certain extent. So if we want to create something externally, we need that hook on the inside, which is a resonant feeling in the body, to connect to it and have that symbiotic connection going on at all times. And then we can begin to create with each other in council amazing resonant ideas of truth through integrity. What could it possibly look like? And this is of vast importance. We need to begin to dream, weave this world already. It needs to be in our focus, in our hearts, the feeling of yes, yes, that way, that way, okay? There are many communities that have sprouted up, as we know, in many countries that are international communities working to create form through feeling. And I think this is wonderful because we need many different examples of this, how that is possible. Another aspect of that is, I think what we are just beginning to come to now, to appreciate, because we are lacking some forms of ethics and morality in our human life because we've gone so quickly forward after the Industrial Revolution, right? And so that's why my spirit intelligence tells me constantly, slow down, slow down. Doesn't mean you have to, you know, be like in slow motion, but spend some moments during the day of just all of a sudden going slower, slowing everything down. And it's like some minutes of meditation in life, you know. And it's a wild thing to do, because now I'm reaching for this book. And I'm going to spend the next 2 minutes reaching for this book. And I'm simply noticing, I'm connecting. Oh, I'm realizing how much I feel when I allow it. I may be starting to feel the feelings of the two humans that are on this call. Oh, one of my favorite books. You know. And then comes some laughter, some joy, quite organically, because it seems really silly what I just did, but I allowed myself to. And then, okay, I can go back to my normal pace, like boom, right? And that is creating space inside. That is creating a context of space inside. So we can get to the bigger questions without creating space inside. We're just working, I'm sorry, I have to be very blunt. We're just working through programs. And some of those programs are quite useful because this has to be a filter. We go, you know, a bit dotty very quickly if we didn't have this, this wonderful filter. But too much of a filter is, it's not, it will not be enough for us humans to really honor and connect with this life-giving force. And I feel we have everything we need to co-create what the future is asking us for. I really do believe that we do. And maybe it's a time we all need to internally clean house, so to say. Get your brooms out, get your brooms and your cloths out. And by cleaning this, we can clean what's happening outside here in our world, because nothing happens for no reason. What are your thoughts on this? Fellow humans in the Zoom room, the last 2 minutes. Oh.
Loads of resonance, especially with the pop using resonance and nature as a compass. And adding the cleaning up process, adding the clean up to the wake up, I would say, to the grow up and show up.
Nice.
It's all the uppers coming together in this field of resonance.
I love that. I love that. Grow up and show up. You know, what we do is I facilitate once a year medicine woman training. It's been one of the most intense trainings that I have facilitated in my life thus far. It's for a year. And part of that, what we invoke there as we learn to reconvene and commune with Mother Nature and all these different skills. Magdalena was there. Is what you're talking about, to be able to show up enough for yourself that you can show up for the earth and the society. If we can't show really up for ourselves, then it's more difficult to stand up for our earth and humanity. So we need a symbiotic relationship between those two realities. It's very important at these times to do so. And we can have fun while we do it. Woo, 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 woo. So I think that we've come to, I think that we're just about to the hour. I thank you all so very much for tuning in. This has been a beloved hour. I've so enjoyed it. And I think right now for this moment of my mentor, Gerhard Bott, and all the others, you know, Gimbatas, very famous female archaeologist, anthropologist, Maria, I always get her first name, Maria, Maja. Oh, Gimbatas, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of respect. And again, for our humanity and the unity consciousness, and the Caravan of Unity Europe and USA. My fellow humans, check it out and join this vibration with us. Thank you.